Hey everyone, Mano back here with another Destiny video. And in today's video, we're doing something completely different. Many of you that complete a great deal of the end game content know that you can earn collectible medallion pins from the Bungie Store, given whatever triumph or seal that you've unlocked. However, when you get them from the store, you'll notice that they don't look exactly like they do in the game. They are a nice, beautiful bronze color with lots of great details, but the problem is they just don't look the same. So last year, I actually took it upon myself to look for some different strategies to make the pins look like they do in real life. I shared my results on Destiny's Reddit page, and I had a lot of people asking me how I did this. Well, at the time, I only had the 4 basic pins that I had already completed, taken care of, so I wasn't able to show the process. Well, it's a year later, and now I have more pins to show. I've got a set of 6 more seal pins from the Destiny store, and what I'm going to do today is show you how to make your pins stand out like this. I think they look a lot better. I think that they look a lot sharper, and to be honest with you, this isn't a very difficult process. Now, this is particularly going to be for any of the collectible medallion seal pins inside of Destiny 2 that you earn by earning the in-game triumphs. There are some pins that come from the Bungie store, like the Trials pin I have here, that already have the black background built into it, and it stands out really nicely. I actually really like this pin. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a technique to make your seal pins stand out quite a bit, and you can do this very easily. What you're going to need is you're going to need your seals new, all taken care of, fresh. And I'm actually going to show you kind of a before and after picture for all of these. Now, this flawless pin right here, you can actually see almost has kind of a little bit of that black background, but it just doesn't stand out enough for me. The Undying seal is a perfect example. You can see that there's really not that black negative space built into the pin. Same thing for the Almighty pin. And all of these pins are going to be, I think, a really solid after I do this technique. What we're going to do to accomplish this is a very simple and easy model painting technique called the reverse wash technique. And the truth is, you don't need an expensive airbrush or air pen or anything else like that to get this done. Just a couple of simple items from a hobby store or even a hardware store will help you get this done. So I'm going to show you what you need. First of all, what you're going to need is some type of matte enamel spray paint for model cars, planes, Gundams, etc. If you do have an air gun or an airbrush and you want to use that, that works perfectly fine, but this is a low cost, cheap option. Next up, you're going to need enamel paint thinner, and you don't need a lot. A small bottle is all that you need. When you're working with paint and this paint thinner, you need to make sure that you're doing it in an area that is well ventilated with no pets or kids around. You want to make sure you keep it away from heater flames and always take the right precautions. Next up, what we're going to do is we're going to use small craft swabs. These are smaller than Q-tips, but they allow you to absorb a great deal of paint with a great amount of detail. You can see that these are small triangular swabs. They will allow me to use the paint thinner to do this reverse wash technique. Now, sometimes at hardware stores and hobby stores, you can find these small reusable brushes, and they're a good backup if the small swabs aren't available, but the swabs are definitely your first and best choice. Next up, you're going to need some paper towels, nothing special there, and you'll also need a cardboard box or an area where you can paint the seals without paint getting all over. For me, I live in Minnesota, and right now it's pretty cold, so I'm going to use my bathtub where I can get some good ventilation and I'm away from everything else. You'll want to make sure that this box is tall as well, because you are going to be spraying the paint from a distance. So make sure you've got a box that is tall, it is deep, so you can put the seals in and you can do some painting without getting stuff all over. What you're going to do next is line the box with a few paper towels, mainly to make sure that the paint stays in the box, not in the tub or the area where you're going to spray. Again, a reminder, you need to do this in a place where you can get some good ventilation. You need to keep pets and kids away, especially if you have any birds. You need to make sure that you keep them away. They are very sensitive to spray paint and aerosols like this. Next up, what you're going to do is you are going to place the seals inside the box, and you're going to spread them out. I spread them about 6 to 8 inches apart, and you want to make sure that you can put them in the box in an area so that you can spray them from a distance. And what you're going to do is you're going to shake up the enamel paint can, make sure it's really mixed well. I did this for about 30 seconds to make sure that the paint was ready to go. If you're using an airbrush, you want to do whatever instructions you've got there to make that work. And what you're going to do next is from at least a foot away, you're going to lightly spray the seals in small, short bursts. You don't want to let the paint pool in any way, shape, or form. All the seals really need are a light, thin coat. And you can see here that I'm just taking my time, small, short bursts. If the paint pools together on the seals, it's going to be hard to get off, and it also is going to get you a very, very negative result. So you want to make sure that it's just a light, thin coat on the seals themselves. What you're going to do is let them sit there for a little bit and dry. You can see here how thin the coat is. When you spray it originally, it's going to look shiny, but it will turn into a matte finish after you let it dry for a small period of time. Let them dry for at least 10 minutes and then remove them from the box and put them face down on some paper towels. You can see here, I'm actually going to use the paper towels and kind of pad dry them on the paper towels to remove any excess paint. Don't worry if your pin looks a little bit strange, like my Undying seal here looks. Don't worry about that. Basically, all you're trying to do is remove as much of the excess paint as you possibly can without removing it from the background of the pin in the negative space. Okay, what you're going to do then is continue to do that for all the seals. I did all 6 of my seals together, and it actually worked out really well with the timing. What you're going to do then is you're going to check all your seals that you are working on, and you're going to check and see if there's any spots not painted on the seal in the negative space. You can see here, I'm checking my Almighty seal here, and the background looks really good. If something is not there, what you're going to do is lightly respray the seal so that you get all the corners and nooks and crannies of the negative space filled out. Again, you want to make sure that the paint does not pool, but here you can see some good examples of as much paint as you need to put on them and where it will be. And you can already see it's starting to turn into that matte finish. The next step in the most detailed section you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and open up your bottle of paint thinner, use the small swabs, and remove as much of the paint thinner as you can. So you have a very, very thin layer of the paint thinner on your swab. And you're going to start to remove the paint from the elevated areas of the seal. In other words, you're going to be washing them in reverse. You're basically removing them or washing the paint off with the paint thinner. By doing that, you're going to get the elevated areas of the seal to stand out while allowing the background to maintain its black color, and it will stand out significantly more. So what you're going to do is you're going to get as much off that seal as possible from the elevated areas. And once you've completely coated the swab with all of the paint and it can't really take anything else without smudging or putting more paint back onto the pin, you flip the swab around, you use the secondary part of it, and then you go ahead, grab a little paint thinner and continue on. This is going to take a little bit of time. It is going to take a little bit of patience. But again, it's very simple to do. You can see here, I'm actually going back in with the swab, and it's just going to go over to the edge of the pin. And what you want to make sure that you do is you want to make sure you don't use a lot of paint thinner. Here's the problem. If you use a lot of paint thinner, what can happen is if you use too much liquid and it goes down into those background areas, it'll bleed in that area and it'll affect the look of the seal, and it won't have the nice black background that you're looking for. Again, just use a very, very light amount of paint thinner, very, very thin. In fact, I usually wave it out or tap it quite a bit before I actually go to the seal here. And I let the cotton actually do the work on the swab and have it absorb as much as possible. One thing that I find that works really well as you're taking off the paint in the reverse wash fashion is if there's any kind of an angle or straight line feel on any of the elevated parts, you want to move the swab in the same direction of the angle. That seems to make it so that you can get all of that paint off very cleanly without disturbing the background of any of the seals. For example, the Conqueror seal has the sword moving straight up and down. With your swab, we'll get that all taken care of. On the thin elevated areas like the Undying seal, you can look underneath the logo and there's that like little bit of circuitry that's popping up. You want to be very, very light with your air. You can see here I'm kind of going to town on the edges of this pin, but as soon as I start to move towards the middle, I'd use what Bob Ross, the great painter, would say is 3 hairs and some air. Very, very light pressure. That way you don't take off any of the background feel. But here on the edges, you can use a pretty good amount of friction and you can get that off. You want to continue to clear off any area that is elevated on any of the pins. Take your time and don't rush or put on too much paint thinner on the swab. Remember, you just need a tiny little bit of paint thinner to get the chemical reaction going to pull off the paint from the seal. Here you can see here I've got a good portion of the Undying seal done, but I don't have any of the fine details taken care of. That is a-okay. What I'll do is I'll probably do a couple of different clears. Like here, you can see I'm basically at the rough draft of the Saint 14 seal and a couple of other seals here. Doing it in multiple clears or multiple layers will be good because then you won't accidentally take off too much paint. Right here, you can see I've got a little bit more cleaning to do on the Almighty seal. But now that all of the fine details are kind of taken care of, I can do that without having to worry about having too much paint thinner on. What will happen though is if you do put too much paint thinner, if you look on the top right hand side of this pin, you can see a tiny little spot on the Conqueror pin where you can see a little paint thinner went. I'm gonna have to go back and fix that. But here's a rough draft of the Undying seal. You can see that it's pretty clear. The background is helping the gold parts stand out really well. Here's the Enlightened seal. And you can see it's pretty clear. I've got a little bit more polishing to do, but it's pretty much there. Doing it in multiple clears or multiple coats is really good. Okay, this is after 2 or 3 clears with paint thinner. All that's left is to touch up some more of the fine details and we're almost done. Overall, this only took me about 2 hours for all of these pins from start to finish. I put on a couple of movies and just had it in the background and just worked on it slowly, and it stands out really nicely. What you want to do is once you're done with that portion and you've gotten it to the way that you want it to look, go ahead and set it aside and let it dry. And right now you can see here are all of my seals one by one. You can see that everything is dried and I've cleaned them up and polished them and gotten them everywhere they need to go. And I think they look fantastic. They really look like they do in the game. I do think it's a very easy strategy to get this done as well. You can see the fine details pop out a lot more with this. So it's a really cool and easy project you can do. A couple hours set aside, especially if you want to make your Destiny pin collection stand out a little bit. Also, if you're one of those people that is looking to get this board that is on the Bungie store, it will kind of work together with these pins. It'll almost make it match the black and the bronze layout. All right, everybody, that's all I've got for you today. And if you did like something in this video, a positive rating would be greatly appreciated. Make sure you subscribe for up-to-date Destiny 2 content. Also, feel free to share this video with anyone who's got any of the seals, and check me out at twitch.tv/manodester777, where I do a bunch of Destiny helps. Make sure you join our Discord community. The link for that is in the description box below. Good hunting, Guardians. I'll see you next time in the universe of Destiny.